All right, you guys all doing all right? Still with us this evening? This afternoon, I mean? I know it's getting to like the end of the day. You guys like that like I am, like you get down to the end of the day, you got your stomach full at lunch, you settle into one of those seats, and all of a sudden you're like, start to do one of those things. All right, well, so I know what I'm up against, right? So I'll try to keep you on your toes as best as I can. So we've still got like a minute or two before we start. I thought if I started a little bit early, and then maybe if I finished a little bit early but got everything, that wouldn't be like a horrible thing as late in the day as it is. Anybody object to that? No? Okay. All right, cool. Well, I'll make sure that we get through everything. So, okay. Welcome. So this session is organize, it doesn't actually say it up here, but organize your Google Classroom Marie Kondo style. So I gotta ask before we start, of course, how many of you are familiar with her book or watched her TV series? Yeah? Okay, all right, so several of you? All right, that means that the majority of the room knows more about Marie Kondo than me. I kind of like the idea of it. I know the general steps of it, so feel free to correct me or add things to it if you want to. But one of the things that I've found when talking to other people about Google Classroom is that they always feel like their Google Classroom is a hot mess. Does this sound familiar to any of you? Yeah, okay. Which is why you're here, right? So I found that there are a handful of little strategies that you can use to get it a little bit more in order, a little bit more organized, which of course helps you feel better, breathe a sigh of relief. But of course, if kids are able to find things easier, that makes things 100 times easier on them. And then maybe they're more likely to use it or use it more, right? So, all right, so that's that. Now, there's this. ditchthattextbook.com/organize is supposed to be the page that I created to get you to all of the resources that I've got for this page. Right before I pulled this up, for some reason I'm getting a page not found thing. So as soon as the session is over, I'm going to try to fix that. So if you want to hang on to the link, basically what it's going to do is it's going to redirect you to a post on my blog. That looks. Oh, it did? You guys got it?
Just worked.
Why not me? What is it? Okay, awesome. All right, great. Well, in that case, take a look at this fantastic link that I've created for you. ditchthattextbook.com/organize, which is kind of a summary of all the stuff that we're going to talk about related to Google Classroom. So, all right. P.S. This link isn't going anywhere. That page is going to stay up. If you want to bookmark it, write it down, share it with somebody else if you want. It's not like a secret link. Feel free to do that. Okay. So, to kick this off, I thought it would be a good thing to do to start is to put up Marie Kondo's 6 basic rules of tidying, which is interesting because if you dug into all of this and you've looked at it a little bit, I started to look at this in light of what we want to do with Google Classroom, and I realized that there is some crossover here, which is kind of interesting. So if you look at her basic rules of tidying, one is commit yourself to tidying up. Maybe that's why you're here, right? Is that this is your commitment to getting a handle on Google Classroom. Number 2 is to imagine your ideal lifestyle. So like, what is it going to look like? What could it look like? How would you feel if it was that way, right? You finish discarding first. Throw away the things that you don't need first. Then tidy by category, not by location. See, this is interesting because we're going to get into this part a lot in this session. Follow the right order. She's got an order of things, like I think clothes are first, and then like books and something else, and then miscellaneous and papers, and I don't know. She's got like a very specific order. And then the last one is the big one that everybody seems to know about. Ask yourself if it sparks joy. Now, the things that we're putting into our Google Classroom, are they going to like immediately, instantly spark joy? I don't know, maybe, but if we look at them kind of through a different lens of will students like really, really use this, that might be a good way to look at it. So, okay, so with that in mind, let's dig into the first part of this. And a lot of this is going to focus on this one particular part of Google Classroom, which is what I think is your organizational superpower, the topics. Of course, the topics exist in the classwork section. I bet you're probably familiar with the fact that there are topics. If you're not, here's how you make them. You just click the Create button up at the top, and then down at the bottom there's Topic. And then what's nice about the topics is once you make them, it makes one of these little subheader type things. You can rename it, you can drag it around, that kind of thing. Don't worry, if you think that this session is going to be about how to make topics the whole time, not what this whole session is about. But a lot of it is based on your topics and how you use them. Because how you use them has everything to do with how organized and in what way your Google Classroom is organized. So let's look at the first one. The first one is pick the structure that works best for you. So I'm going to give you several examples here. And by the way, with this, I mean, if you've used Google Classroom for any amount of time, even a short amount of time, you probably have some sort of organizational structure that you've been using. You may even have some tips and tricks that are working for you. I'd love for this to be kind of like a two-way conversation. I'll throw some things out here, then I'll throw it over to all of you and see if you've got any suggestions too. So if you've got something that's been working for you, we'd love to hear that as well. Okay, so pick the structure that works for you. Here are a couple of ways that people are using these topics. Number one is the sort by week structure. So, if your lessons are very much week focused, this is a good way to go. There's even sort of a discussion on, do we do this chronologically, like oldest to newest, or do we do it reverse chronologically, where we put the newest thing up at the top and then kind of, whenever there's a new week, we throw it up at the top. So as far as that goes, that's one way of looking at it, is sorting by week. Sheesh, it's late. I'm leaking people out the back of the room. Have you guys noticed this? Okay, that's all right. I'll keep moving, okay. Number two is to sort by unit. Now, this is kind of the way that I started doing it, is to sort by unit, which kind of makes sense, especially if like your textbooks or your curriculum is sorted by unit. But you'll also find that if you do this kind of thing, those units get big and bloated really fast. I have a strategy for that too, but we're going to get to that in just a moment. Then you've got subject and topic. So with these, if you teach self-contained, all of the science, all of the social studies, and you've got an individual Google Classroom for each of those subjects, you might go like topic within each one. So all of your water cycle stuff in one place, all of your biome stuff in another place. And then finally, there's file type. I think not as many people will organize by file type, but there's a little bit of us sometimes that is very, very appeased by seeing all of the icons all organized together, all neatly within their same groups, right? So some people will go in that direction. So week, unit, subject, topic, and then file type. Let me throw one more idea at you real quick that has to do with all of that. And that's the right now section. Now, this is kind of a cool idea. I had a teacher in Texas suggest this to me, and I think this is really cool. She said what she'll do is she'll put a topic up at the very top of her classwork page called Right Now. And so whether you do chronological or reverse chronological or whatever, what she'll do with that is she has the Right Now section up at the top, and anything that they're working with on that very day or within that week, they keep it in the Right Now section. And then whenever they're done with the stuff that's, that week or that day, they'll take all of these and then they'll put them down into another chapter topic or another unit topic, and then they'll start more stuff, different stuff with right now. So the right now one is kind of a constantly cycling one, which is kind of a cool idea. Okay, I'm curious. Want to throw it out to all of you real quick. Sort by week, sort by unit, sort by subject and topic, sort by file type. Do you use a right now section? Do you use something similar to that? Is there another section that you use? Really curious to hear how it works for all of you. Yes, sir.
There's a teacher I was working with that she has a master class that she created, and then she reposts from that master class. So it has it's bloated and it has all these links. It's huge, but she does a gradual release to the students by reposting from, so that the students never see the master class.
Yeah.
She just reposts from that to the actual classrooms.
Yeah, so the master class is like a library of all of her possible assignments, and she just uses the reuse post button, and then throws it in there. That's really good. I like that. Yes?
So I do subject and topic, but at the top instead of right now, I have graded work.
Graded work.
Because they always want to know what's graded.
Yeah.
So they can go through and just see, these are all the things that, if I don't have something turned in for each one of these, then I don't have work graded. I don't have my assignment turned in.
That's
Even though
really
there's other
good.
places they can go and see that.
Yeah, but if you have it all in one place and they just click all the way down, they can make sure that they have a grade in all of those spots.
Right.
That's really good. I like that. Very good. Who else? Anybody else? Okay. Very good. Okay, so we talked about the ways to use the topics and then the right now section. So, let's go back to the unit for just a second. Remember how I said that these can get kind of bloated? And you see what I mean by that? Like, if, for me, when I was teaching Spanish, I would have 6 main units throughout the entire year. And so if I used one of these as an entire, for one unit, I used a single topic, it would be a mess, right? After a while, there would be so much stuff in it. Might as well just not even use topics. And so you start to look at that and you start to think, well, what if we had subtopics? Would that be nice? If they could do subtopics under the topics, so then that way we could sort it, almost like a file folder system, right? There's no official way to do this with Google Classroom, but there's a way to do it. Not like an official subtopics thing, but let me show you how you can go deeper with subtopics. So here's what you can do. Within that same topic header right there, like this one, for instance, is a chapter lesson one. So for me, within those units, each chapter would have several lessons within it. And so what you can do is create a couple of different topics. And instead of having an official subtopic under it, let's just make subtopics by the way that we name it, by the way that we write it in. So chapter 1, lesson 1. And then we just make another topic right down here that still has chapter 1, but now has lesson 2. And you can, of course, put a description on what it is or not, if you want. What I found, I have that on the next one? Yeah, there it is. What I found is that consistency keeps it neat. Let's go back up to this other one. Do you notice how on chapter I have ch.1? You'll want to continue to do that over and over again if you're going to do this, to make it easy to scan and find it. If you can keep that naming structure very consistent, it makes it really easy to scan and find. And then of course with lesson, I could have just abbreviated lesson down to L or less or something like that. Let's get crazy for a second. Let's go unit, chapter, lesson. So now we're going to go topic, subtopic, subtopic. So now we're going to go, and this is the way that my Spanish textbooks were outlined, was you have a unit and a chapter and then lessons within those chapters. So now we've got that same naming structure, and we just do the same kind of abbreviation. U1 for unit, CH1 for chapter, L2 for lesson, and then we can have the description there. So if you've never tried breaking them up like subtopics like that, again, it's not like official, like it won't break it out like, on a bulleted list you can have sub-bullets. the ones that go a little bit further. It doesn't officially do that, but it still gives you the same general idea as that. Anybody do anything similar to this or have kind of like a naming structure like that that works for your lessons? Yeah? Okay. Anybody have anything to share or? Okay. Just keep going? Just keep going. Okay, I'll just keep going. All right. Let's go to the next one. This is where it gets kind of fun. Not that this whole thing hasn't been fun, of course. Like this is kind of a different twist. You ready for this? Using emojis and abbreviations as tags. Yes, we're going to go there. We're going to go to emojis. Do you know that you can use emojis within Google Classroom? No? Okay. I lost those two guys with emojis. So, yeah. Okay. Emojis are fun, I promise. All right. Anyway. Yeah, you can use them in your titles. You can use them in a variety of places. So to make things visual, it's kind of nice to throw them into the titles of your assignments. So you can there's a wide variety of ways that you can make these happen. One is if you're using the Google Chrome web browser, you just get a Chrome extension. You guys know what Chrome extensions are? You know, they're like the little programs, little icons that live in the top right-hand corner. Just get an extension in the top right-hand corner that lets you add emojis. And you can go and copy them in there and then just paste them into the titles of your Google Classroom assignments. So if you think about it, what if you have, activities for this week? Let's say that this is a 3rd grade class and you teach reading and math and maybe a little bit of social studies and science or something. What if you have a different emoji for each one of those? Now the other thing I went with was abbreviations. This is a whole different direction you can go with this too. Do you notice at the beginning I have these little like 2 and 3 letter abbreviations that show different subjects or different activity types? Think of this like, are any of you big like color coders, organizers, So imagine this is like having, one of them's like having a highlighter. A variety of different colors of highlighters, and then this one is like having stickers. So you've got all these different layers. Yes?
Does it allow you to put your Bitmoji in?
Ooh, that would be fun. To squeeze it into this little spot right here, I don't think.
Not so much in that little spot, but I know other people.
Yeah.
With the extension, it just made me wonder.
Yeah, that's a good thought. You can't put it into a assignment description.
Okay.
You could put it into a file that you attached on there. So of course, yeah, that would totally work too. Okay. I'm gonna try to wrap this up before just keep like kind of losing people. It's like messing with my mind here. Okay. So I'm gonna try to wrap this up real quick so you guys can all get to dinner. Okay. Hopefully this is useful. I will try to make it as expedient as possible. I promise. If it makes you feel any better that the guy who did the keynote this morning feels this same way sometimes too, does that make you feel a little bit better? Okay. All right. Let's go in this direction. Creating satellite locations. This is another one that can help you with your organizing your Google Classroom. Because sometimes when people talk about Google Classroom, they'll ask me, what are your best Google Classroom activities? What are some Google Classroom activities I can do? And I'll go, really? They aren't Google Classroom activities. Do you ever think about it that way? They're not Google Classroom activities. They're activities that you assign through Google Classroom, but we're doing them in the different Google tools. So the places that those other Google tools live is kind of like your satellite locations. Let me get to this a little bit, show you kind of what I'm talking about here. For instance, you can take your Google Classroom and you can link to other places that have a lot of these resources. So for instance, what if you create a shared Google folder where you dump a whole bunch of files that your students might need to access at some point? So you do that. This is especially helpful if you've got a handful of things that they might possibly need at some point throughout the year, but they won't access them very often. You throw all of those into this folder, and then you put it into your classwork page somewhere. Because if you think about it with your classwork page, that's like prime real estate. You know, especially the top part of your classwork page, that is prime real estate. That's where you want to put the stuff that kids are most likely to touch on a regular basis. And so if you've got something like your class syllabus or your, daily routine or, helpful links or, stuff like that they might need to access at some point, you definitely don't want to put this up here at the top. Maybe you throw it into a folder in Google, click the share button, grab the link, and then just stick that link into your classwork page. And then they're able to jump off into that Google folder and go see that stuff. So then that way, you don't have a whole bunch of that stuff all lined up in your classwork page. And can you see how that's, I called that a satellite location. So can you see how that kind of works? Like, have you ever seen with companies, their headquarters is in New York, but it says New York, Rome, Tokyo, Singapore. It's like, this is Singapore. This is where you go someplace else, but you're still kind of doing the same work. Google Sites, of course, are really good with this too. For the longest time, even right after Google Classroom first opened, I managed a lot of my assignments through Google Classroom, but I still had a separate class website because I liked the design flexibility, and I liked to be able to throw a link up there, maybe throw a picture up there, maybe embed a slide presentation up there, and that's stuff you just can't do in Classroom. So having a separate Google site, you might think, I'm just going to do everything through Classroom. And you can, but you get a lot of flexibility if you create something like a site. I used to use Weebly, though. Anybody else use Weebly at some point? Yeah. That was back when it was the old Google sites, and it was still really clunky, and not a big fan of the old Google sites. Weebly was much better. New Google sites, 100 times better. Other satellite locations, other places where you can send kids, where you have other things sitting there. For instance, you could use something like Flipgrid. So if you look at this, we're all familiar with Flipgrid. Have you heard of Flipgrid at this point? Yeah. It's your video response tool where students are able to respond to videos. What if you create a topic, which is kind of like a folder within Flipgrid, and you got a bunch of little instructional videos that you've recorded? Now that's a satellite location that you can send kids off to. Wakelet is another one to be able to collect lots of resources. Symbaloo is a good one for littles because it's very visual. It's like a grid, and then you can go click on the button and head off. Lots and lots of other possibilities there. Okay, so we talk about our structure. The subtopics, remember, that's all just about in the naming of the topic. Using abbreviations and emojis to make it a little bit more visual, to make it easier to see. And then you've got your satellite locations, sending them off to a Google site or a shared Google folder or something like that. All things that you can do to make your Google Classroom a little bit more organized. I did that in 37 minutes. Whew. Actually, I did it in less than 37 minutes, I think. That's okay, but you got all of this stuff, so that's good, right? Yeah? Okay, wonderful. Any last second questions? Anything that has worked? Let me ask this real quick, and I promise I'll end after this, because I really want to throw this back to you guys real quick. Is there anything organization-wise, that has really worked for you as far as Google Classroom goes? Anything I have mentioned or anything I haven't mentioned? Yes, sir?
They haven't done it yet in Google Classroom, and being able to pin things at the top.
Oh, yeah.
Which I wish they, that right now is very similar to that. Like
Yep.
pinning the most important thing at the top. But in my class, I only see them once a week as a special technology teacher.
Yeah.
So everything that I put in, I do during the week, and then I just make sure I update the screen to put the most important things at the top.
Yep.
So just remember that if you're posting something you really want your kids to see, like we talked about, make sure that it goes to the top. And you have to manually do that every single time you add a new assignment, you add a new material, you add a new whatever. Just keep that in mind if you're trying to do Google.
Yep, I like that. Absolutely. One thing that goes along with that too, have you noticed, I bet you probably have, within, I'll just tell you, within Google Classroom, you know how you have the little circle with the question mark down at the bottom? You know where it says send feedback? And I've always felt with those buttons, it feels like, have you seen those political cartoons before where it has all the slots in the post office? And it's like to this city, to this city, to this state, to this country. And they all come to the other side and they all drop into one bin. And it kind of feels like you're shooting that stuff through all of those little things and it's dropping into a trash can. That's what those always feel like to me. Until I was in the Google, it was called the Google Teacher Academy, now it's called the Google Innovator Academy. It's like a 2 or 3 day training you get to go to. And while we were there, we got to do a video call with somebody from the Google Classroom team, somebody who actually works on the product day in and day out. And she told us, she talked to us about the product and everything, but she said, if you're working with teachers, please, 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 please tell them this. Whenever they send something through, send feedback, we read every piece of it. Every single one. They said it is so important because it helps us prioritize what we need to work on next. So for something like a pinned post, if you like that idea, go run to the send feedback button at some point, and every time you put somebody puts something in there, it's like a vote, So if we want to see something like that happen, and there's a handful of things that have come through send feedback that went into Google Classroom because teachers basically begged for it. So glad you brought that up. That's good. Anybody else have one? Yes?
The abbreviations emoji idea?
Yeah.
I have never thought of putting it in individual assignments. I would put it in topics.
Oh, yeah.
And use that because then make my topics stand out more because that's that little small side.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. I forgot about the list. Yeah, because you've got the list of topics that show up over here, and having those little emojis on there. Oh, yeah, that's really good. Yeah, absolutely. So you totally put those in topics. Anybody else? Yes?
Well, actually, from your podcast, one of the things you guys talked about at some point was the naming convention of assignments.
I totally forgot to mention that. Yes,
And
tell
then
us about that.
the hashtag number, and then you make sure you do 3
Yeah.
101 because the 0 and the 1 and the 1 and the 0 get all.
Yes.
Yeah. So I just thought that was really helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully this is something that you've heard about. This is probably, I don't know why this isn't in my presentation. Probably one of the best things for naming your assignments is to put a little number at the beginning of it. We've always suggested doing 3 numbers, like start with 001, and then all of your assignments get that number. I've seen personally the reason why you want to do this, because think about if you ever ask a student to go do something, like to make it up, and you're like, okay, so I need you to make up this one assignment. You remember the assignment. It's the one where and you try to describe it or you try to say the words in it, and they're looking at you like, so much easier to say, I need you to do assignment number 63. Done. Clear, easy, to the point. So yes, so glad you brought that up. That's really good. Anybody else? Going once, going twice. Excellent. Okay. I don't really need to keep this stuff up here because I think you guys know about some of it. I talked about getmatstuff.com. I still do have free stickers. I've got some of them up here if you're interested. I've got some fun teacher t-shirts up here if you haven't seen those. There's a Maverick teacher t-shirt, which I totally love. All of these are super soft. That's like a deal breaker for me if they're not super soft. They're $15 if you're interested in those. Cash, check, credit card, PayPal. Here's one that says Teacher of the Future. It's got little icons on it, things like collaboration and creativity and student choice and all of that. I've got one right here. This one feels like, this is kind of like a checklist for a good day for me. It says, coffee, Twitter, change the world. It's like if I could go down that list, then I feel like I could do about anything. Then of course there are the Ditch That Textbook t-shirts up here with my little acronym on the back of it. DITCH, different, innovative, tech-laden, creative, and hands-on. So if you're interested in any of those, feel free. Barnes & Noble still has copies of my books if you're interested. Free stickers and buttons. What else? I think that's it. Now you can go to dinner. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you guys have a great rest of your campus. Thank you. Phew, those late afternoon sessions are for real, aren't they?
Legit.
More power to you guys for coming to them. That's awesome.
It's called teacher shutdown time.
Yes, it is. That's right. It's hard to start one of these when it's after the school day, isn't it? It's like there's this mental block, I think. Yeah. Hey, how are you? Good. Oh, yeah? Did you see my trash cans out of the Barnes & Noble? Yeah, I put a bunch of buttons in it and like... Oh, are you sure? Okay. Alright, yeah, either way, whatever. Yeah, doesn't matter to me. So, yeah. I'll, oh, yeah, so do you know which one you want? Did you buy a textbook, the yellow one? Oh, awesome, yeah. Yeah, there you go. I love that. That's cool, yeah. Yes, yeah, go for it. I'm starting to get kind of ticked through at this point. There we go. Okay, that's better. Okay. If you yes, that's right. But I can if you want to buy something, we can do that. Yes, absolutely.
So then when you just like turn, you just turn. Yeah. Because I want to get I want you to sign.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, probably. That's right. If you really, really want to pay for a book, then you probably should do it out there. Yeah.
I went to.
Yes, that's right. And I'll just wait here. Okay. Yeah. Yep. And if she's not out there anymore, then let me know, and then I'll run a tangent on that one. Sure. Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. Okay. Sorry about that. Yeah. No, that's cool. I appreciate that. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Sounds good. Sorry. It should be straight out that way and to the left. Yep.
This is my first year as an instructor.
Yeah. Awesome. Good to see you again. Okay. Yeah. That was a fun dinner. I'm so glad that I got to come to that. That was great.
I'm glad we got together. Glad Mari and the group thought of that.
Yes, me too.
Yeah, and Mike thought of that.
That I got included in it because I know I'm not like officially part of the group, but you guys brought me in, which I really
Everybody's included.
Yeah, no, that's cool. That's cool.
So,
Good to see you again. Hey, you're back. Do I not have your size? Yeah.
I had a question.
Yes.
And I didn't want to.
Okay. Yeah.
For example,
Oh yeah.
but I'm not this is probably a super low level question. I don't know the answer. Can they be hidden so that they can only see documents I want them to see in the folder? You know what I mean? Like, let's say I dump everything in for my informational writing unit, but I only want to release 2 items.
Oh, I see.
They're the kids will.
Yeah. Trying to think. Yeah, that would probably be one where you'd want to have separate folders. Because there's not like different visibility settings that you can let them on and all that stuff. So yeah, that's a good question. Yes. Oh yeah. Oh, she's gone? Okay. Yeah, she should be. If you want me to sign it, you know what? I'll just run your one right here if you want. Do you want to do that? You know what? She's for $24.95. Yeah, she's not out there. I sell them. Yeah, I really do. So now that she's gone, then I don't feel bad selling them. Oh, yeah. Oh, there it is. Yeah.
I love that almost as much I'll mail you your replacement. You need to have it.
Okay, sounds good. All right.
Grab some. So you can sell them, that's great.
Yes, I can. Yep. Now that she's gone, I don't feel like I'm infringing upon her business anymore.
Yours, but the Google Classroom.
My coworker.
But I might buy one tomorrow.
Cool. All right. Yeah, that works. That works. Do you know which one you want? Oh, each one. I'm sorry. All right. Yeah. And you are. Yeah. I'm sorry, you're not.
Yeah, sure. I'll see if you want. Why here is not.
Yeah. All right.
Point is entertainment.
Yep.
You
All right, great, and there you go. Yeah, thanks. It's so good to meet you.
too, yeah.
All right.
Hey, well, how are you?
Good.
Made it.
Yes. Yeah.
I would love for digital.
You got it. Absolutely. Am I signing it?
Please, yes.
To Laura?
Yes.
You want the real quick 10-second elevator pitch of each one? Okay. Yep. So there's that. There you go.
Thank you.
So Ditch That Textbook is like.
That's your original.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, that's what this one is. This is like teaching and learning the 21st century, lots of practical examples, mindsets of how we can approach things differently. Ditch that homework. If teachers give homework and it's not getting them the results they want, what can you do instead? That's what this is for.
Is this a good thing to give to your
Is this like a passive-aggressive gift?
No, I just asked.
Oh yeah, I don't know. You'll have to tell me. This one's about using technology to do differentiated instruction. Like how can it make you more efficient when you do it, and how can you do it more effectively using technology? Boom, boom, boom. There you go. That didn't make it any easier, did it?
I want the original.
All right, the original. You got it. Can we sign it to Z or ZN? I'll run that for you real quick. Okay, sure. Brought 2 of each size, and they're pretty picked through at this point, sadly. So, if you want one, I can take your information down. I'll just stick one in the mail whenever I get home, if you'd like. So that's a possibility. You can just pay for it today, and then I'll send it to you. If you don't want to do that, that's okay. But I'm happy to. So. Yep. That's what you do with these things, right?
I have to go high. That's cute.
Nice. Very good. Very good. All right.
Thank you.
Here, dear.
See, what's your zip code?
152.
Do you like a receipt by email or text, or are you good?
What's your planner?
Yeah, the planner. Oh, yeah, I did bring. Here, you want to punch it in real quick? Yeah. I've always looked at lesson plan books. I'm going, who made these things? You know. So I tried to make a better one. So it's got lesson planning resources in the front. It's got a little spot for like bullet journal type stuff. It's got a flexible grid. It's got tools to try and ideas to try and all of that. So yeah. It is on its way. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It was a fun little passion project. Like, can I make lesson?
Yeah, I love the checkbox or bubbles.
Right.
I love that.
There's even a little key at the beginning of a whole bunch of suggested little things you can put into those too. So, yeah.
That's smart.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna get the original.
okay, sounds
Do
good.
the original.
All right. Yeah.
And Debbie, she's awesome. She's an awesome
DBIE.
teacher.
Awesome.
Debbie Brennan.
All right. Yes. so glad you guys came to this session. This is fun to have you here. Oh, no, it's fine. No, it's good.
See, I usually
Yeah.
get pictures taken with astronauts.
Oh, wow, I do. Yeah, you're right. Man, pretty good company. That's nice.
Yeah, my friend Lori just posted one of us in like, because his birthday was yesterday, and he was signing our book last year, so we both visited him at the same time, and he's going,
Oh, that's great. I love that. What's your zip code?
151.
Return the receipt by email or text. Text it. Okay. And so there's that. And what's your number? 2. Yeah, absolutely. Yes, absolutely. No, I haven't signed it yet, so yeah, we'll just hold it. All right. All right, cool. Yes.
I'll give you more. I got 34. And this one.
Yeah.
Where we were at Crane on
Oh yeah.
site visit.
Where is? Let's see. Yeah, I know Crane is a little further south.
Yeah, we flew into Indianapolis.
Yeah. I'm okay. Let me see your book real quick. There's Indianapolis. Crane's down here, I think.
Yeah.
I'm like here, like straight over from Indianapolis towards Illinois. That's where I am.
Yeah, one of my friends lives in Missouri. She's just nice.
Oh yeah.
Thank you very much.
Oh, Twin Lakes. Monticello, yeah. That's like an hour and a half from my house. Yeah, my wife's aunt and uncle are at Tri-County, which is like right next to Twin Lakes. It's like right on there. So, yeah. Yeah, how about that? That's cool.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right, yeah, absolutely.
You have another one of the things just to hold up. I'm going to take a picture of it.
Yeah, go for it.
No, you hold it up.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah, all right.
It's like, here, hold this thing.
You
You know this, but did you know?
Uh-huh. Here, I'll even do one of these. I'll like look at it.
That's so cute. There you go. Got
Here,
it.
take one more picture real quick. Take a picture of that. That's the website, and it's got free lesson planning resources
You
on
want
it.
that shared out with
Yes,
the world?
sure, yeah. I mean, you can buy the lesson plan book there, but there is some free stuff on there too. Yeah, totally.
I took 2 buttons because I want to give
Yeah.
it to the 2 kids that made this.
Oh,
very nice.
yes, please. That would be awesome. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna get 2 t-shirts.
Okay.
One you're gonna send me.
Right.
One of these fabric ones. I'd like to get
Yeah.
one of those.
Have a great
Okay.
rest of the conference.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you.
Are you presenting any more?
Yes. Here, let's do this.
Email to you.
Yeah, I'll just email myself, and that's a Maverick t-shirt, right? Okay, we put name and address, and then size, and then I'll just stick it in this week.
Then how are you gonna walk down? Like if I have people walk down here,
Oh,
you're gonna walk in front, here, walk
What
down
I was saying is
here.
you could just go up and down and then
Okay, watch.
go around.
Okay, watch, if I have the thing here,
Yeah.
the mannequin is here.
Yeah.
Who's gonna hang up the hangers? When it's sitting here, who's gonna have to hang up the hanger?
Yeah.
And then the model's gonna go.
The model can go around
And block this. See, watch what happens when you go down here. Is that okay? And then you come back. So you gotta watch right now.
Well, I was saying if I was doing my Sphero,
Oh, that
I would
you do
drive
that.
it up and down the middle and then drive it around and come up. Same
So
thing
you
with
still go
whoever's
down the front.
So whoever's doing the robot, so they were gonna have their robot follow them. We could start in just a corner, like in the back corner, and then just come up the middle, go back down, and then come around. And what we can do is tell everybody to sit up close. You know how everybody sits in the back.
Yeah, sit on the ends in the middle.
Or just sit and just sit up close so you can see and not
Great,
back.
great to see you.
That
Thanks
way
so much.
if we're-
It's
that
always
way if
nice
we're
to
doing
have
the- Oh, don't sit in the first
sympathetic,
row. Nobody
engaged
sit in the
face
first
row.
right down.
Okay, good.
I'm
Yeah,
just saying.
yeah, I
really
I
I
appreciate that.
introduce you.
It's awesome.
Okay.
No,
Yeah.
you did a great
come
job.
over there,
I
introduce.
think that,
Or
It's
should
just a
I
time of
should I
day.
put the
It's
mannequin
okay.
down
Yeah.
right there?
Yeah.
Let's get in
It's
the
okay.
room
I've got to,
tomorrow.
and part of it is I've got to just as a person not let that
I
stuff
think
shake me. I was
had
just
it.
kind
Put
of
it where it is over there.
Yeah.
Have the models lined up here.
Yeah, yeah.
You,
I
you
just
hang
wanted
up your
I
own
was just
shirt.
kind of like
That's fine.
You walk.
trying to make
You, when you
light,
hang up
know,
your shirt,
but
just
it's-
come over
yeah,
and introduce
it's-
yourself.
Okay.
it really isn't,
Or,
so,
you know,
yeah.
and then you can walk.
Okay.
Yes. Yep. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's for a certain kind of person.
Yeah, I think so.
Yep. Yep. No, that's okay.
It was nice meeting you. Take care.
You too, Kyle. Thanks,
Be in
man.
touch.
Yep.